Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fight fans all over the world, my name is Robert Huddleston. This is the golden age of combat sports. And we are here yet again to discuss Thick Jon Jones. I wasn't the only one that did a video on Thick Jon Jones. Chael did a video. Derek from More Plates, More Dates did a video. And then apparently a gentleman named Coach Greg Doucette did a video, but I can't find that one. So I'm just going on hearsay. Long story long, Chael Sonnen says, if you don't know who Chael is, he fighter, national ranked wrestler on the Olympic team a couple of times, fought in several high profile title fights. Hilarious guy. Real character. Real char actor. He says that, when he was in high school, he drank some drinks, couldn't gain weight. Thinks Jon Jones is just telling a hokum story. Jon didn't put on 15 pounds of muscle. He says Jon's probably not on the juice. He either finds the whole thing an anomaly or it's not true. He then references IFBB pro Dr. Greg's 5'6.5", and walks on stage at like a peeled 200 pounds. Works with a bunch of specialists. He is a specialist in the realm of bodybuilding, putting on weight, and then refining that weight down to visible muscles. Derek from More Plates, More Dates. I don't know what his background is. He's a saucy guy. He pumps iron. He does some pickup artist. He appears to really knows what he's talking about when it comes to the juice. He also claims that Jon did not put on 15 pounds of muscle. But they're all debating as to what 15 pounds of muscle means. Chael throws around a bunch of contradictory terms, God bless him. Derek goes into using a bunch of terms that are way deeper down the rabbit hole, basically saying at the end you get dry contractile muscle, which means actual tissue you built minus any extra fluid, water, plasma. Jon Jones isn't measuring that. First off, the idea that Jon Jones can't put on 15 pounds of muscle in 90 days, we're not talking about 50 pounds of muscle in 30 days. And we're not talking about a guy who's 5'6". Greg Doucette's 5'6". I'm right at 6 foot. I think Derek from More Plates, More Dates is 6'2". Chael's 6 foot. Jon's almost 6'5" and has the wingspan of a 7-foot man. 84.5 inches. It's the same reach that Tyson Fury has. He's 6'9". Jon also has notoriously thin legs. His arms are the same length and the same diameter as his legs. So he has a ton of room to actually put on contractile tissue. Like if you want to get down and start measuring to the dry, he has plenty of space to. He's Jon Bones Jones. He has a lot of bones to pour that tissue over, to spread that tissue out on. What is the math on 15 pounds of muscle in 90 days? I did that math. 1 ounce weighs roughly what a compact disc does. Remember compact discs? That's an ounce. Jon Jones needed to put on 2.5 of these on Jon Jones's frame. He needed to put on 2.5 on his arm, on his legs, on his neck, anywhere, a day for 90 days. So I want you to think about ribeye. And if you were to take ribeye and spread it out this thin, cover this much space, twice and 1 more half. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jon Jones could do that. Pump iron a couple times a day, eat more, don't go out in the Albuquerque sun and run up a mountain, don't go grapple a bunch of animals, don't go get into 10 rounds of kickboxing with some world champion. Just lift and eat and sleep extra. I can't believe there's a debate that Jon Jones put on 15 pounds of dry contractile tissue. I know nobody's going around with a caliper and checking him, but I trust him when he's like, I put on muscle. I mean, he knows what his jiggle ratio. I didn't run up and squeeze the guy, but 15 pounds of muscle on a 6'5", giant with the wingspan of a pterodactyl who his entire life is cut weight and purposely took calories and nutrients away from his being for 10 years, from 23 to 33. 23 to 33. When his body would have put on man weight, he kept making 205. Let's talk about the Spartans. We have this idea that Spartans were the hardest. Spartans lived a life of leisure because slaves did all their daily work. You'll remember the scene from 300 Spartans, what's your job? Ugh. And he asked the Athenians or the Acadians or whoever it was, I think it was the Acadians, that, what are you doing? They're like, well, I'm a cobbler, and I'm a blacksmith, and I'm a farmer. They're only there part-time. They happen to, in format-to-format fighting, be a little bit better than their Greek counterparts. Not head and shoulders above. The Thessalonians later conquered them. The city-state of Thessaly whipped Sparta's ass. Stay with me. Because the Spartans were a leisure class. They didn't have to get up and do the hard work in the field, in the mine, fishing, hewing timber. They just got to get up and train war tactics, so they were very good at war tactics. And they had certain hardships they folded into their lifestyle, but they didn't live especially hard. If they were hungry, it's because they choose to be a little bit hungry. They never knew what starvation was. By contrast, the Mongols, who just lived hard out in an ocean of grass where there was very little food, eventually grew to be giants because only the hardiest lived. Like Genghis Khan, if you didn't know, he was red-headed, green-eyed, and stood 6'2". Back when everybody was 5'5". The Vikings were all 6 foot plus. The famous ones, anyway. And they came from starvation circumstances. And they beat every professional army they encountered. So did the Mongols. Why? What made the Spartans, who trained all day, different than Vikings, who half the time tried to farm frozen ground, or the Mongols, who tried to hunt open grass where nothing lived? Living harder circumstances will always make you better at combat than just choosing to train hard. Now there's some parallels. Jon Jones is closer to a Viking than he is a Spartan, as it is his combat's his lifestyle as opposed to his profession. It's his lifestyle. He trains for it all the time. Bodybuilders are more like Spartans. They do what's called leisure training. No one ever pushes them in the gym, right? The way Alexander Gustafsson is standing across from Jon Jones. You know, when Jon Jones throws his 10th punch against Alexander Gustafsson, Marcus Rule, Dennis Wolf, Schwarzenegger, Columbo, Zane, name any of them, they've never done anything in the gym that challenged their press, like when Jon Jones threw a punch against Gustafsson. They've never done a squat that was anything like Jon Jones throwing that kick that knocked out DC. They've never recruited muscles under the stress and under the adrenaline that Jon Jones has. So one day when he goes to call upon just layers of neural webbing and muscular memory that I don't care what you did in the gym, you've never achieved in a neuromuscular, cardiovascular, hormonal fight or flight sense what Jon Jones has. More times than anyone. It's not just, like, you couldn't take Lou Ferrigno, who's 6'5", and recreate that career. Sometime he was 23 to 33, fight the best in the world over and over and over. All those 5-round fights. All those times he didn't train and just showed up and pushed his tissue. That's what bodybuilding is. It's pushing your tissues. There's nothing that Jon Jones can't go in the gym and do. Every lift Arnold ever did, every lift Ronnie ever did, every lift Palumbo ever did. You name a bodybuilder. Jon Jones can do all those lifts. All those leg presses, all those bicep curls, all those cleans, all the pull-up. I mean, you name a gym move, that any legend did, Jon can go recreate that as part of his training today, right now, and get any result they ever dreamed of getting. None of those legends I named can ever go do what Jon Jones did. They can't run and knee people and stop them. They can't choke out another legend who's trying to blow your brains out with his fists. They can't fight hard for 25 minutes against another giant. They don't have those things in their wheelhouse. So when you tell me that putting on muscle in return isn't in Jon Jones's wheelhouse, well, that's nonsense. Nonsense. So yeah, Jon Jones, he can put 2.5 of these on a day for 90 days consistently. In fact, there's probably no weightlifting feat that I'd say Jon Jones probably couldn't do or recreate. Can he put on more muscle faster than Greg Doucette or Chael or Derek from Plates for Dates says? Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, guys, you're wrong. Chael's a lifetime athlete. Greg's a doctor. Derek's juicy and swole. You're all wrong, guys. I mean, you're not understanding the basics here. You're not dealing with a standard person. And the things he's done with his physiology, I don't care who you've worked with, what gym monster, what anabolic legend, they were never Jon Jones. They were never anything close to Jon Jones. Raw. Then Jon Jones's career. So if he decides to start picking things up and putting them down, if he happens to be better at it than all of you, even the things you think you have wrapped, like how much muscle can you put on in a given amount of days, well, you're wrong. We were all wrong when Jon was 23. You know, every time some legend came up and like, this is going to be the one, we were wrong every time. So Jon starts picking weights up and putting them down and eating more. And the guys who are great at picking up weights and putting them down and eating, well, he's already better at that than you are. I don't care how long you did it. I don't care what your pedigree is. I don't care how many weights you lifted, how many juices you took, how many calories you ate and counted and threw back up. None of that matters. When Jon Jones shows up, he tends to just be better at it the first time he tries. So yeah, he put on 15 pounds of... First off, I put on weight. I'm 6 foot and 195. If I ate like a horse, I could put on 15 pounds in 10 days, and some of it would be muscle. You know, I mean, you'd tell I put on weight. And Jon Jones is 5 inches taller than me and has another foot on each of my hands. So to say that he couldn't spread that, I mean, he could put that much blood on if he wanted to, without tissue. So, I mean, this is one of those things. Yeah, 240 Jon Jones is a real thing. I think everybody thinks that he couldn't do that. He's juicy. He's going to come in deconditioned or slow. I mean, he survived. He surprised all of us when he came out the gate and basically stopped the fight with a flying knee to Shogun. I know the fight went on another round or so. Shogun says, I was done after that. Choked Lada Machida standing up. Right? Surprised all of us. Crippled Rampage. Get hot in here. Rampage ain't walked the same since. Stood in front of Rashad, who I'm like, Rashad's going to knock him out. And instead of throwing a jab, he threw an elbow and landed it. And you're like, oh, I didn't know he could do that. Didn't know anybody could just put an elbow out there like a jab and bang, ring your bell. Okay, well, you surprised me, Jon. When are we going to stop being surprised? So Jon Jones is better than you at lifting weights and consuming calories. Why? How's that a surprise? How is that a surprise? He's a world champion, I'm sure, when it comes to lifting weights and eating calories. I don't know what the next argument's going to be. I look forward to him. I'll do a third video on Thick Jon Jones. So yeah, tell me what you think. Jon Jones can't put on 15 pounds of muscle in 90 days. Poppycock. Like, subscribe, share, comment, argue with me. God bless you. Happy Thanksgiving.